it was more adult in that way. But then like at the end, he was like, yeah, I was beaten as a child. I was like, oh, that's oh, okay. So we're getting into it, and he's like, yeah, they throw rocks at me.
Hello and welcome to the Nerdiest podcast, the show where nerds talk about nerdy things. I'm one of your hosts, Mr. Nick Barrett, and as always, I'm joined by my ride or die, Mr. Jackson Glass, and we are back after 2 long years to talk about Demon Slayer Season 2, the Entertainment District arc, because that is the one that Jackson chose last time. Now, as I said, it has been 2 years because the first season of Demon Slayer and the movie were all that was out when we did the last episode, and 2 was 2 years ago. So it's taken us 2 years to come like full circle. But that's also on me because we only did one anime adventure that year, and then just didn't never do it again.
And then
So,
but it's good to be back to an OG, for the podcast.
First revisit, we'll see. Has Jackson's opinion changed? He said before recording that he has a lot of thoughts that he's very excited to share. And every time, historically, when he said that, it's never been a good thing. So we'll see.
I'm so excited.
We'll see.
So
no, I don't know. You said that with Oshinoko, and you really liked Oshinoko. So
yeah.
Who's to say? But before we jump into that, before we jump into anything, I want to issue an apology real quick because it was my bad. The Aftershow episode went out last week, but it went out to everyone and not the paid subscribers. And that's on me because I was uploading that episode like 10 minutes before I went to bed. I was already exhausted and down on sleep, and I just missed the little for paid subscribers button and set it off, and it was like scheduled, and I was like, okay, good, I don't have to worry about it. And work was really busy last week, so that's on me. But for everyone who's listened to it, hey, now you get a little sneak preview, a little tease of what you're missing in the paid after show. Yep. So I will make sure they're all locked properly next time.
This isn't going to happen again. So if you wanted to listen to
that was the one time.
For $3 a month, you could be a Nerdiest podcast subscriber where you get our original monthly after show where we trade sharing movies with each other and review them. Last month was Jordan Peele's Nope. That's what went out to all audiences. And next month, we're going to be talking about Pomp of the Cinephile.
Because it's July.
Month, we're talking about Pomp of the Cinephile, a movie I have never seen, and I cannot say what I think yet because I haven't seen it yet. So you could do that. Also, while we're here, follow the Nerdiest Podcast on YouTube at the Nerdiest Podcast, on Instagram at the Nerdiest Podcast, Twitter, Nerdiest Pod. Anyway, you know the drill. Merch in the store. NerdiestPodcast.com.
Whole shebang.
Anyway,
super casual.
Mr. Nick, how was your week?
It was good. It was good. What have I done this week? Well, for starters, this week I had Thursday and Friday off, which today is Friday because it's when we're recording.
Let's go.
So it's been nice to have 2 days off of work and just kind of chill. I've spent most of that time not working, which is character development for me. I did do a little like YouTube work yesterday. I made some shorts for Nick with No K. I have been doing a lot of I'm trying to get ahead because next weekend is our off week, and that's when I would normally record stuff. But we are going somewhere that we'll talk about next time because I don't want to say it ahead of time because I don't want anybody to I don't want to dox myself. But we'll talk about it after it happens.
It's gonna be great.
It's going to be epic, but we're doing that next weekend, so we'll be gone, so I can't stream or do any of my usual stuff. So I'm, working on content this week, and I have 2 editors now, which is awesome. They're working hard, definitely not hardly working, because I will keep them busy. Whenever they finish a video, I'm like, oh, that's great. Here's 4 more. So, and everyone at work is like, how do you have such a consistent content output? And I'm like, well, it's because I know I don't have to touch the video once it's done being recorded. It's not me. I just send it off and it gets magically edited. And it's done when it's done. So
I don't know how it happens. Maybe, maybe it's just, child labor. Who's to say?
Who's to say?
It gets done. And that's what's important.
Wages are pretty close to that. Anyway, so yeah, that's what I've been doing this week. There's one thing. I've been emotionally distraught for the last 2 weeks for something that we're going to get to in the news.
Right.
But other than that, I'm here.
We'll get there.
And I'm doing good. How about you? How have you been? How's your week been?
Hey, I'm doing great. So essentially, I also have not done a whole lot this week. Work has been busy. I've been watching Demon Slayer is what I've been doing. I'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, it's been a good week. Last week was 4th of July. And so, sorry, text messages are coming in and it's like, I'm on Do Not Disturb, but it's people that are bypassed. So it's like distracting me. Yeah, the week has been good. It's not been too crazy, just work. Also working on some YouTube stuff. We just crossed 500 subscribers on the Glass Studios. So thank you all for supporting.
Not to flex, but I meant 580. I just had to get the most accurate, up-to-date number. Not to flex.
Yeah, and I know you guys are. I know you guys are really just begging to know the updates on my wedding planning.
I was gonna ask if this is gonna be like a recurring bit every episode.
Yeah. So I know you're just dying to know the update on my wedding planning. So here's what's going on. We have a venue. We have a date. Now, right?
You have a date and you haven't told me yet?
I was waiting to tell you, because I knew we were going to talk.
Oh, okay.
This
you get
weekend.
A pass.
So I was waiting.
You get a pass. It's going on my calendar as soon as you tell me.
Because there's a lot more to the story that I will tell you.
Gotcha.
That's not.
That makes sense.
We have a date. We secured a venue. We sent inquiry. We secured a photographer. We sent inquiries to caterers. And the thing here was my aha moment from the week was we don't like cake, right? We're not cake people. So we're just, neither of us like cake. So we're like, what could we do instead of cake? What we really like is ice cream and tiramisu. So we're going to do tiramisu at either rehearsal or reception, and we sent an inquiry to Ben & Jerry's to see if they could, cater part of the wedding, right? Hey, guys, newsflash. For Ben & Jerry's to scoop ice cream for 150 people, they're going to charge you $2,000 to scoop ice cream for 150 people.
You know how much ice cream you could buy for $2,000? A lot
That's
more
what I'm saying.
than you need to feed
the
150 people.
Right. I could buy everyone their own little pint for that. Get out of here. So, TBH, that's not going to happen. So we're figuring that out. But man, also, we're trying to get a live band. And I, as a musician, Jackson Glass on Spotify, I have always heard, I talk to a lot of musicians. That's what a lot of my friends are. They're music majors in college, whatever. And the only thing I've heard is, hey, it's really hard to make music. It's really hard to make money doing music, this and that. And this, it'd be really hard to find a job. And I'm going to be, playing at random bars in Nashville for, 6 years before I get discovered. And then if I want any of you people to play at my wedding for a couple hours, it's $8,000.
Yeah.
So listen, you cannot tell me that you cannot make money doing music when then I have to pay, not I, but then if someone wants you to play at your wedding and it's $8,000, there is something I'm not understanding here. And I acknowledge that. But no one has been able to enlighten me on why. Like, anyway, that's the update. Not to turn this into just me complaining about prices, because one, I'm not the one paying for it, and two, that's like a very guy thing when you're planning a wedding to be like,
yeah, you're the practical one. You're the like not getting swept up in the emotion of it all, you know?
Right. Which I am. You know, it's really sweet and it's really fun and I'm really, really excited. But I'm just like, you know, it's the kind of thing where it's like girls, like someone asked me, they were like, I mean, growing up, like, what was your dream wedding? And I was like, I didn't have one.
My dream wedding was eating pizza with the boys. What do you mean?
Right. Like, guys,
and my wife was
really
there.
Think about this. So, like, this is my first introduction to the wedding world, and so I'm just kind of like, I'm just really new, and so all of these things that are really normal are kind of blowing my mind. So, you know, speaking of
wait. Can you text me just the date so I can see if there's supposed to be a podcast episode on that day? Yeah. Or if we're gonna have to record that weekend? Because now I really want to know. If it's within the same range you told me,
right, then it's possible.
Yeah, we're gonna have to record that day. There's literally a podcast supposed to come out the Monday after that.
That's really,
but
really
that's
great.
Also the 2025 schedule, which we have not solidified
which we haven't
yet.
Talked about,
and we haven't gone on break this year yet. So how the break affects like shifting dates? I'm just saying currently. Based on my Google Calendar bi-weekly episodes, there is supposed to be an episode.
I had this thought of like, because when my sister got married, all of the groomsmen and like all the groomsmen and bridesmaids and everyone like hung out the night before and had a bonfire and it was great. And we were up pretty late and like everyone like kind of like went to bed and we're like, okay, good night. And I was just thinking like, when you go to bed and everyone's like, okay, good night, that's when you slip away and record like a 30-minute podcast. And you just do a little like, just a quick little like, hey guys, by the way, hey, I'm getting married tomorrow.
We're at Jackson's wedding eve.
Hey guys.
How do you feel?
I also love, like right now, my favorite memes is it's like me looking at a homie getting married, knowing it should have been me in that white dress. I'm like, I've
seen
bad.
So many good ones that I'm like, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. Anything else before we move into the news?
No, I don't think so.
I didn't really do anything crazy for 4th of July. We just went to a baseball game.
We watched fireworks downtown.
You know, that's great. You know,
and I watched Demon Slayer last night.
Right,
but not the episodes you were supposed to watch. I rewatched the. Episode 8 of season 4, the finale of the Hashira training arc that sets up the next thing. Oh my gosh, what a good episode. I cannot wait for you to get there. But at this rate, it's going to take you another 4 years for you to get there.
Oh gosh.
We need to speed that up.
Moving into some news. This is a pretty big deal. Redbox.
The box that is red.
Everyone's least favorite way to get DVDs has filed for bankruptcy. And and they have about $1 billion in debt. Billion with a B. They're being sued by multiple media distributions. So like Warner Brothers is suing, and I think Sony is suing. Redbox employees have not received a paycheck in 3 weeks.
This is problematic.
We are so bad. Yeah, I mean, think about Redbox. Like, I haven't used a Redbox in maybe 8-10 years.
Right.
And the whole point of Redbox was to be affordable movie rental. That was the point. Was like you could rent a movie, and it was like new and old movies, and it was kind of like streaming before streaming. So like there was new and old movies, and you could select there, and you could rent it, and it was like $2 a day based on what you got. And so it was really affordable. You would just like, if you just brought it home, watched it that night, and brought it back the next day, you could rent a movie for like $2.
Right.
And it was like really affordable. They had some pretty good titles. Founded in 2002. I'm just looking at a little bit of the information. They operate about 27,000 kiosks in the United States. There are 27,000 Redboxes, which is down from the 36,000 they had in August 2022. Which apparently, and I didn't know this, there is a entertainment parent company called Chicken Soup for the Soul Entertainment. I've never heard of this in my life.
Me either.
I'm reading this on newstribune.com, so, you know, super well-known news site that no one's heard of. Chicken Soup for the Soul Entertainment, the parent of DVD rental operator Redbox, has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. I need you to Google Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection because I have no idea what that means. The bankruptcy filings come after months of serious financial struggles for the company and piling unpaid bills. Chicken Soup for the Soul has accumulated nearly $1 billion in debt. The Chapter 11 filing submitted Friday in Delaware bankruptcy court shows after reporting loss after loss over recent quarters. The filing also discloses that Chicken Soup for the Soul owes millions to more than 500 creditors, which ranges from big names in the entertainment world like Sony Pictures and Warner Brothers to major retailers like Walgreens and Walmart. As of March of this year, Friday's filings show Chicken Soup for the Soul has about $414 million in assets and $970 million in debts.
Yikes.
Shares to the public company have fallen more than 90% in the last year.
That's not good.
So in the last year, they went not stonks.
Not stonks. Negative stonks, actually.
Yeah. So that's nice.
So a Chapter 11 bankruptcy, this chapter of the bankruptcy code generally provides for reorganization, usually involving a corporation or partnership. A Chapter 11 debtor usually proposes a plan of reorganization to keep its business alive and pay creditors over time. I don't think that's a good idea. I think they need to just can the whole thing. Much like, dude, okay, I felt so vindicated when reading this, right?
Right.
Because last year, and the only reason I remember this is because I pulled out a clip for the podcast YouTube. I said, who still goes to Redbox? Do people still use Redbox? Like, I see it outside Walgreens. I see it in a Publix every now and then. I see it at Walmart. Like, but I never see people there unless it's a kid who's like waiting for their parent to finish paying or whatever.
Right.
So seeing this, I was like, yes, Redbox, much like Blockbuster, made sense in the time that it was in, but it's no longer in that time, so therefore it's outdated. And I think, and I know like we do have to be careful with just axing stuff like this left and right, but also if you're going to rent a movie, right, you're going to rent it on Amazon or you're going to watch it on streaming. Like, you're not going to say, oh, hey, babe, let's go out to Walgreens and pick up a Redbox and then get some snacks while we're there. Like, no. Either you already got the snacks or you're going to a store that doesn't have a Redbox and you're still going to rent the movie anyway because you don't have a DVD player. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
I felt very vindicated reading this because I was like, good, this proves my point. Nobody's using Redbox.
Well, it's hard because, like, we are slowly but also quickly seeing more and more physical media just cease to exist.
Which is a problem.
Which is a problem. But you're right. Redbox was it's an outdated system. And honestly, like, when you walk by the Redbox, take a look at the movies that are there, because their selection has seriously declined in the last few years. Because
companies stopped putting their movies there.
Because they stopped, it was just, it's a good system for back when DVDs were like the thing.
Yep.
You would pick up a DVD on your way home from work and then pop it in. You could also get games from the Redbox. Did you ever pick up a game from a Redbox?
I sure did.
Dude, I'm trying to remember. I think I picked up like Epic Mickey for the Wii on this Redbox. And my dad was like, you can have, he's like, I'm going to return this in like 3 or 4 days, but like, just try it out and see if you like it. And then if you like really like it, maybe we'll get it for Christmas, like something like that. And it was this race. I was like, I will complete this game before it's time to return it.
I have to beat this game in 4 days.
I have to beat this game in 4 days. And I did. So, it's the end of an era is kind of how it feels. It's like, it's really sad because I grew up on Redbox, but also like, this isn't one I'm super heartbroken over, honestly. Like, because I never felt personally benefited by Redbox,
Right.
So I really, it's kind of like, this sucks because I want the physical media to continue to be accessible, because, you can still get physical media places for freaking $40, which is another rant I'll go on another time. Like, freaking Criterions are a scam, and no one can, like, change my mind on that. I'm not here to have that conversation. But, like, physical media is not only becoming harder to find, it's getting harder to pay for, because we're charging freaking $40 for a Blu-ray. And it's like, okay, maybe people would actually go back to this if it was, $20 or
right.
$15,
Yeah.
So, like, we're kind of in a really bad position as physical media continues to go so I don't know. We have a whole episode on that. If that's interesting to you, go back and listen to that one. So there's 2 more news points that I'm going to hand over to my ride or die, Mr. Nick Barrett.
One of them is going to segue into our next point. But the first one is why I've been in emotional distress for the last 2 weeks. So let me set the stage here, right?
You have to set the stage, yeah.
Last week, I guess 2 weeks ago from when this episode comes out, I was getting up. We're going out to have a nice big production week at work. I was all super excited, right? I'm like, oh, This is great. We get to do work outside the office because we mainly primarily work in the office. So like, get to go out, do some work outside the office is going to be great. Right. Getting up, getting ready. Let me do my casual, morning scroll on Twitter. All the My Hero accounts I follow are freaking out. And I'm like, guys, what are we freaking out about? It's Monday. Leaks aren't until like Thursday. And I keep scrolling. And from the official My Hero Academia Twitter account, the manga is ending on August 5th. Like, done. And I don't know how to feel. It's one of those things, like, you knew it was coming, right?
Right.
You know the ending was coming, especially with the way we were at, of like, oh, well, we're past the final battle. The chapter was called Epilogue. Like, Horikoshi said, hey, we're in the epilogue. Like, we're close to the end. But I still wasn't prepared for the announcement that it was ending. And to, like, know that there's 5 chapters left. Well, I guess 3 now. And, like, once that's it, like, the series is over. Has sent me in this, like...
It's like...
My Hero is my series, dog. Like, that's...
Yeah.
It's my favorite anime. It's my favorite manga.
My series,
like,
Academia.
I don't know what I'm going to read after, because it's the only manga that I'm caught up with, like, weekly, because a lot of the other ones I just buy the volumes and I read physically, and there's no other series right now that, like, has a pull on me enough to be like, let me just read and catch up, right? Like,
right.
It's also like this series has done so much. I'm gonna save it because I'm working on a whole video about that. Because as soon as it was over, I was like, all right. And I opened up a Google Doc and I was like, all right, the script title, thank you, Kohei Horikoshi. Boom. All right, let's start writing.
All right,
we
let's
gotta go. So
it's time.
That was a big deal, knowing that My Hero is going into its final stage. In a similar vein, and what will transition us into the main topic for today, is this just got announced last weekend.
Oof.
The Demon Slayer Infinity Castle movie trilogy just got announced, which is so awesome. I just need to live long enough to see the movies. So, which I did do a whole video on this, which will be out by the time this episode comes out. It'll actually probably be out while we're recording.
Yeah.
But it is very exciting. I talk a lot in that video about how if there's anything that can save movie theaters at this point, it's Demon Slayer. Because we're 7 months into the year, and Inside Out 2 was the first movie of the year to break $1 billion. That's rough.
That's hard.
That's rough.
That's real hard.
So then I also look at okay, well, the last Demon Slayer movie, Mugen Train, broke all these records in Japan. It's the highest grossing anime and Japanese film of all time, highest grossing film of 2020, highest rated R film of all time, or highest grossing R-rated film.
Mm-hmm.
And it broke all these records, so that's cool. Now take an arc that is 10 times more hype and apply that to it.
And do it times 3.
And do it 3 times. These movies are going to be insane, bro.
This is going to be a monopoly. It's
going to be crazy.
To be a monopoly.
I'm already gathering my list of people of all right, you got to be caught up and ready. We're going Thursday night to the IMAX. Ooh, I will dish out the money, bro, to see these.
We need
movies.
to go.
We need to go. You need to be caught up.
When is it? When is it?
There's no dates yet for any of them. But if I had to guess, they're going to want to try to keep the yearly release. Mm-hmm. So the next one I would say is probably anywhere from July to December next year.
Okay.
So they do seem to be decently ahead on production, because the first episode of season 4, which premiered in mid-May, they started the process of storyboarding and dubbing 2 years before that. Which means that season was done long before it started.
That's wild.
Airing, which means they've been working on the movies for a while, which is good because that means the time between each movie won't be as long. So I'd also assume they're working on all 3 of them simultaneously in a way, just to make sure there's a consistency there. So it's going to be hype. I'm so excited. But also, this is the end of Demon Slayer, too.
Yeah.
So, who's to say?
Who's to say?
It's going to be good.
Who's to say? So, yeah, that transitions into our main topic, which is Demon Slayer Season 2, ? Entertainment District Arc is what we're going to say. Season 2. It's really confusing because, and this is only confusing for me because I'm dumb, but it's I
wouldn't put it that way.
It's okay, so there's arcs, but they're kind of seasons, but also you could watch the movie and skip this whole arc, and so I don't know. It's just a little.
That was another thing.
A little much.
Is everyone's whining? They were like, "But I wanted Infinity Castle as a season," and I'm like, "Yeah." The last time they did a movie that was canon content, about a year later, they chopped it up into episodes and put it on streaming, so you could have it both ways.
God bless.
They can have their cake and eat it too. They get the big box office money, and they get to make money off of putting it on Blu-ray DVDs twice.
Wow. I love it here. I love capitalism.
Dude,
take my money.
It works.
So yeah, that's where this is where we're at. Give me something.
All right. So
Entertainment District Arc.
Before we talk about season 2, what did you remember about Demon Slayer before watching season 2? Because it has been a hot minute.
It's been a hot second. Let me tell you. I remember the last time I watched Demon Slayer was when we watched the movie. And because we watched
in college, bro.
Right, because we did the season 1, like the 20-something episodes. That was that. And then when we got together, when I flew down there to watch it with you, we just watched the movie. So I'm trying to remember. I had to catch up, right, for something to see the movie.
You had to finish the first season so that we could watch the movie.
Yes. So I remember watching Demon Slayer in the airport and on the plane to get to you so that we could watch the movie. And I remember thinking, like, I was on this plane, like, just on my phone, like, watching it. And I was like, one, this is too good of a show to be watching on my phone, and I feel bad. But also, people next to me probably thought I was so, like, they probably had no idea what I was watching. They were like, what? Huh? Because it was like this old lady next to me who was probably so confused. So yeah, I remember my main like takeaway from Demon Slayer was that one episode where I cried. Was it 17?
19.
Was it episode 19? That one where I cried.
I still have the reaction video on my computer.
The mountain art, the one with the whole mountain part of the first season is like peak animation in like just overall. I remember that. I mean, I remember characters. Like that's kind of, and then I remember most of the movie. I honestly could not really tell you what happened in that movie except the end, which was the most important part. So, that worked out for me. Yeah, I couldn't really tell you what happened in that movie, but I would watch it again. I think it's 5 stars.
It is, dude.
It's a complete movie, So, there you go. That's what I remember, like pretty much. I was talking to someone at work about Demon Slayer a couple weeks ago, and I was like, yeah, I'm about to start the second season. And he said, yeah. I said, I like the second season better. He said, halfway through the first season, I Googled, when Demon Slayer, when does the yellow kid get less annoying? And I was like, that's so valid.
I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, that's what I remember.
It's gonna take you a while to get there.
Yeah, that's what I remember.
The plot twist is that Zenitsu was never annoying.
He was never. There you go.
Especially not this season. He wasn't.
No, this season he was the definition of locked in. Like he was. All right. So yeah, that's what I remember pretty much.
Okay, now. Give me your overall thoughts on this season as a whole. Overall, keep it very general, because we'll break it down and go like episode by episode like we normally do. But generally speaking,
I watched this season over about a week and a half, and I watched the dub, and I feel like I remember when watching the first season, I thought the dub was really bad, but it was really good.
Nah, bro,
around.
I don't know what it was. I don't know what it was about the dub that they just locked in for season 2 and beyond.
Yeah.
Like the movie
good
and forward, they locked in. They were like, all right, we're here. I was like, what happened?
Yeah. I don't know if they were just like, Kyle, I need you to like actually scream, like
Alex, really get in there.
Yeah. So, it's always like probably like the whitest dude names ever. They're just like, listen here, Connor, you need to.
Well, I can tell you Tanjiro is Zach Aguilar. Zenitsu is Alex Lee. And, oh no, I broke my camera. Whoops.
Oh no, you did the thumbs up.
Okay, we're back. We're so back.
Welcome back. Anyway, here we are.
That tech issue aside, I'm just not going to use my hands anymore. So Mac has this thing where it does reactions.
Yeah.
As you saw. And it'll do like these fun little camera effects on the like Mac Studio or like updated version.
So fun. Right.
Except for the fact when it doesn't work and does stuff like that and crashes everything.
And it just crashes. Yeah. So all I saw was a thumbs up and then a frozen little like thumbs up emoji. And I was like,
So
anyway,
I'm gonna use a pointer now. So Tanjiro is Zach Aguilar, Zenitsu is Alex Lee, and Inosuke is Bryce Papenbrook.
Bryce, of course, it's freaking Bryce.
What's his name? Tengen is Ray Chase. So they are like. Nezuko is
really
Abby
white
Trott.
Dude names.
They're all
just Abby, and it's like,
but they locked in. They do good.
Everyone knows that Inosuke is named Bryce. He would be named Bryce. So overall thoughts of the season. Listen. It was very, very good.
Let's go.
It was very, very, very good. But not as good as the first season.
Whoa. Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's an interesting take.
I think, just generally speaking, it was very, very good. But I wasn't, like, fully locked in until the last maybe 5 episodes. Like, it was a lot to set up with less payoff. Well, I'm not going to say less payoff because it's kind of like the payoff was a 12, but getting there was hard. So when, like, the first, like, 3 or 4 episodes, I don't, like, it's just, I couldn't really tell you what they were doing. Like, what, like, it kind of, like, all mashed together for me. And, like, an episode would end and I'd be like, that's it? Like, really? And then you get to the last, like, 5 episodes and it's like, oh, this is where their budget went, you know?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, this is the character payoff that we were building to. But I feel, and I know that I feel like the first season did that too, but I think the first season had a much smoother, like, story arc in the sense of, like, I felt like the buildup was much more natural and I was engaged from the beginning. Where this one took me a little bit to get there, and I was like, okay, we're in the entertainment district, and they have the Hashira with them, and, you know, they volunteered to go on this mission, even though they probably really weren't that qualified, and it almost, like, I had to get over it in the first, like, after, like, 2 episodes. At first, I thought the mission was kind of dumb. And I was like, this feels like a side quest. Like, I don't feel like this is a main mission.
Oh, but
I don't feel
not.
like this is a main mission quest. And I was just kind of like, why are we here? Like, I feel like we're not really doing anything. And then the last, like, 4 or 5 episodes, I was like, oh, that makes a lot more sense. And it was like, there's some really great character work. Nezuko is kind of the GOAT, honestly. Like, she
for
was
real.
like
For real.
the reason that they're alive, you know, all this stuff. So that is general thoughts. And we will break it down more as we go episode by episode. I had things I really loved and things I didn't really love. Where the first season, I was, like, so locked in. Where this time, it was more like an episode to finish to be like, that was really good. Yeah, like, I enjoyed that. I think that was good. And then the second half of the season was like eyes glued to the screen.
Yeah.
Like, last night, if you've listened to any anime adventure at all, you know that I'm awful at watching these shows on time. That's why this episode was delayed. And even though it was delayed, I still watched the last 3 episodes last night. And so here's the thing. My original plan was to watch 2 episodes last night and then get up and watch the last episode. So that was the plan. Because I knew the last episode was like had 10 more minutes, like it was a 32-minute versus 22-minute, and I was like, okay, this is gonna be the plan. And then that second to last episode ended, and I sat up and I said out loud, it was like, I kid you not, 1:30 in the morning, and I'm in my room watching this by myself. I shot up, and I said, "Are you kidding me?" And I said, "Next episode."
So what's so funny about that is you get the ability to press next episode. I watched this live without reading the manga, so that was my cliffhanger for a week.
Right.
It was
I would
awful.
not have been able to do that.
It's such a good cliffhanger too.
Right. No, it's phenomenal.
Because like you think, oh, the fight's over, and then it goes boom, and then they're like, all right, credits roll. See you next week.
And you're just like,
is everyone dead? What happened?
Please. Yeah. So that's kind of general thoughts, but overall, I'm gonna say like 4 out of 5. You know?
Okay. So would you put the first season at 5 out of 5 then?
Yes.
That's very interesting.
I don't know if that's a hot take. Like, but I also feel like the original introduction to discovering something will always be rated higher. You know? Does that make sense? It's kind of like learning about the characters in the world and getting there like for the first time is a very magical thing. And so now that I'm here where I kind of like know a little bit more that's going on, I was a little bit more casual with the watch. And I was like, okay, yeah, like I'm into this. Like I can watch. Yeah, this is good. Good story. Good job, guys. And then the last like few episodes, I was like, like it was hype.
Yeah,
so,
this season definitely is backloaded in terms of content because I won't disagree with you in saying that I think the first half, or maybe even I think it's like the first 4 episodes. When do they start fighting?
2, 3,
I think
4.
I think it's episode 4. They start fighting. The first 3.
1, 2, 3. See, they start fighting in 4, but it's not until 5 that it's actually starts,
right? Because like it kind of starts at the tag end, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna fight you," and then it's like, "All right, that's the end of the episode." So the first 4 episodes, I'll say, are very set up. But one thing I liked about this season is I felt like we got into the action a lot quicker. Because I remember initially watching this season 2 years ago, I thought it was going to take longer to get to the fight, because from season 1 we essentially halved the episode count, more than halved, because we went from 26 to 11. So to half your episode count, and then I don't know, I thought it was going to take a lot longer to get to the fighting, because season 1 it was like, oh well, here's this, and now he's training, and now he's doing this, and now we're getting to like he's actually out being a demon slayer. I did appreciate how quickly they got into it.
Which, because at the end of the day, looking at the episode list, it really was one thing about Demon Slayer. They know how to make one fight turn into 7 episodes.
I was about to say, it's like, the traditional anime thing of one fight is now going to take up the entire season.
Yeah, because we really are looking at 7 episodes of fighting.
Yeah.
And so...
Yeah.
And part of me, like...
And I think season 3 is like, the same way.
Oh my gosh.
Hold on.
It's like 1, 2,
Let me look.
3, 4. And then there's 4 episodes of setup. And then 5 is when you like start to fight.
Yes, season 3 is the
6,
same way. Legitimately.
I'll be honest. What I'll say about that, though, is by episode 8, I was kind of like, are we still fighting? Like, is this still happening? Are we still doing this? But then it was like, when it like, they just kept going. And I was like, okay, we're still fighting. And then it got like really intense. And I was like, okay, never mind. We can keep fighting.
Yeah, that is,
this is fine.
That is one complaint I've heard about this season, is there are multiple points where theoretically the fight should be over. Like, when Tanjiro starts gasping after like his initial "I'm gonna go crazy," that should have been his cap, and he should have been done.
Yeah.
But then he keeps coming back and keeps doing more, and then does it again, and then
again.
he overcomes it and keeps fighting. And like, that is kind of the whole premise of the series, is like, oh, you should push past your limits and like keep on fighting, never give up. That's literally the name of the second to last episode.
The episode, yeah.
But there are multiple points where you're like,
Or like, okay, buddy.
I don't know, dog. I think you should have tapped out a long time ago.
Right. There's part of me where I'm like, I think that would have killed you. I'm going to be real. I think that would have killed you. And then it's like, I think that it was handled well in the sense of like, this wasn't a Deus Ex Machina, and it wasn't like, there wasn't some crappy random plot reason that he survived. It was just like, no, he overcame it.
Right.
Like, you know, there wasn't like some fairy that came and revived him out of nowhere, and you're just like, what? No, he just was learning. He was growing. He was pushing himself past his limits. And even like other characters were doing that too. And I think, and this is kind of what we talked about years ago about Demon Slayer, was when they say upper rank demon, they mean upper rank demon.
Yeah.
Upper, like
there's a
this
difference between the guy on the train who like was putting people to sleep. That was a lower rank. And then Akaza, who came in and fought Rengoku, guy on my shirt, that's upper rank 3.
Right.
And they fought upper rank 6. So imagine how much stronger number 3 is.
And then he said at the end, he said, well, that's the lowest of the upper rank, but I can't really, can't really give you credit for that. And I was like, are you freaking kidding me?
Look around, bro. We leveled the entertainment district.
So, I don't know. It was kind of, I really appreciate that, because I feel like the hardest thing that we are trying to convey in a lot of like action, like sci-fi, like the problem with Marvel is their villains are so big that I can't really compute it. And it's the kind of thing where it's like, okay, in Eternals, this guy came out of the earth, but it's kind of like, that's too big.
Right.
And my brain doesn't compute that. And then they still just kind of defeat him. And so I'm kind of like, he was that big. Like, he's really not that strong. But that's what the show does so well, is they're like, hey, this is a big bad. And they do big bad things. And they literally almost kill every character twice.
Yeah.
Like, this was we barely won kind of fight. And I really appreciate that, because that's actual good storytelling and not just, this is big bad, good guy defeats bad guy. It's like so much more than that.
Exactly. And it's not
I like that.
And it's not like everyone came out of this unscathed either. Like,
right.
Tanjiro now has these massive scars on his chest that will stay there. Tengen lost an arm and an eye, so it's like,
and he's literally retiring. Like, he's done.
Yeah. So it's like, yes, they push past their limit, but they're also, and one thing that doesn't get credited, because it technically happens at the very beginning of next season, but you find out after this, when they're all like in that group hug at the very end, Tanjiro passes out, and he's out for 4 months.
Wow.
Like, he's down and he's out. And that's kind of the start of next season, is like, oh, he's just chilling at the rehabilitation center for 4 months.
Right.
Because he's asleep.
He pushed himself so far.
Exactly.
Like, because every time he went down, he should have been dead, but he got back up.
He stood back up, pushed way beyond his limits, so now he has to oversleep to compensate for that. So it's like,
exactly. That's what I did this morning.
The repercussions of that
I am
then
Tanjiro.
Felt. So
I am literally him.
Jumping into,
I am Tanjiro, but me pushing myself to my limits is staying up too late watching TV.
Get out of
and then
here.
my resting 4 months is sleeping an hour later than I should have.
Get out of here.
Tanjiro, me pushes himself to his limits. Watch too much TV late at night.
No.
This is going to be a meme. This is going to be a meme.
So,
I got to do this.
Moving into like vague specifics. I don't know why I said vague specifics.
Also, spoilers.
Spoilers, but should have been implied.
Right.
So, episode 1. We go through a lot in episode 1. And
yes,
I mean, obviously, we're not going to spend a ton of time on these starter episodes because there's not a ton there. How did you feel about all the Rengoku stuff?
I was heartbroken. I was ready. It made me want to watch the movie again, but it was very realistic, and I liked that representation of grief. And I really liked his dad, where he was just like, he was cold, he was rude, he was a drunkard. Like, honestly, like, if Tanjiro walked in there and he was like, oh, thank you, my son was so honorable, and like, thank you for being this, like, you're really a hero, I would have been like, okay. But it was a much better and more realistic portrayal of the situation to have everyone just like, no one was okay. No one is okay. And that's what it should be. That is what, like, that's what grief is. And so I really liked his dad. I liked his brother, and I really liked his arc throughout the whole thing, where he was like, dude, I was wrong. He was like, I was in a horrible place when I did those things, and I'm sorry, and I'm trying to be better. And it's just like, that's awesome. That's awesome. So yeah, I really liked the stuff at the beginning. It just kind of broke my heart.
Yeah, it's so sad because Rengoku is my favorite Hashira, and like, he's gone. But I think one thing that this series does really well is, even though Rengoku is dead, rest in peace the GOAT, his presence is still very much felt.
Right.
Throughout, like, just the impact he left. And that's something we continue to see throughout the series. Like, it doesn't just stop here, because it's the most recent, or it's the arc immediately following that. Like, it comes up again in season 3, and again in season 4, and again in the Infinity Castle stuff. So his presence is very much felt, and like, his brother being like, here, take the sword scabbard, because you can use it better than I can, and he would have wanted you to have it. And just the whole, like, what would Rengoku want me to do? He would say, set your heart ablaze and do this thing, and like, really grit down and do it. And like, the fact that Demon Slayer is able to pull so much emotion out of you from this character, who we were only with for 2.5 hours, who also, if you really think about it, would have left a bad impression, because in the first season, when you see him in the Hashira meeting, he's like, yeah, we should kill them both, because his sister's a demon and he's sympathizing with her. They should both die. And then his character development of going through and being like, well, if your sister is going to shed blood to protect humans, I respect that. And if you're going to do the same, like, you're both great in my eyes. You know? And his full circle there. And then it continues through.
Goat. Rengoku.
Speaking of Hashira, how do you feel about Mr. Tengen Uzui?
You know,
the flashiest of them all.
My Demon Slayer bingo card did not have polygamy in the center. And, you know, that's why you have to stay till the end when they do the Taishiro secret, because they just legitimately fill in the gaps. And I'm like, thank you. I am dumb. I need the gaps filled in. And so they were like, yeah, he just practiced polygamy. And I was like, oh, okay. Cool, I guess. He is a character, like, you know, you've seen this character in every piece of media ever. You know, he's the super big flashy ladies man that, you know, has big muscles, and, you know, all the ladies love him, and all the loser dudes are jealous of him. But I think that the difference with him that made him actually likable from that trope was that he was actually kind of cared, you know? Like, he was actually hardworking, fought hard, and cared about the kids that he brought, and they were all like, what is this guy? Like, this dude is such a jerk, and he's so flashy. At the end of the day, he was there to protect them, you know? Like, he actually pulled through. And, like, the 3 Rives thing was wild. That was bizarre. But I guess he loved all of them, so, you know.
It's so funny. I don't remember if it was... I don't remember if it was in the manga or if it was a Taisho era secret in the Mugen Train arc, but there's something where, like, there's a conversation between Rengoku and Tengen, And Rengoku's like, I don't know, man. I think you have too many wives. And Tengen's like, I mean, you can think that, but I'm going to keep doing it. He's like, all right. I'm just saying.
Oh, my gosh.
And like,
see, it's just.
They're so. Tengen is awesome. It's honestly. I love Tengen.
He's just. It's kind of played for as a joke, you know? Like, it's not. They're not like, yeah, polygamy.
Right. And it's not. Like, the show's not advocating for you to do that. It's almost more of like a world building thing of like, even in our real world, like there are people who practice polygamy, and that's just a part of the world. You don't have to agree with it.
Right.
You don't have to practice that lifestyle. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Right.
So,
but it's also like, he also like, it's not just there for giggles or there to like push an agenda or to approve or disapprove of something. It's there so that when that demon whose core personality trait was he was a loser, which you feel bad for at the end, but like when he first comes in, you're just like, wow, what an incel. Like this guy is like the worst.
Average
and
Reddit
he's just
user.
Like, yeah, I have 3 wives. And he's just like, you have 3 wives? And it's just like, Gah! And it's honestly, it's more of a joke than anything else, but it's also like, it's kind of funny. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I honestly really liked his whole like flashy bit because it fit the setting so well, where they were almost in like a kind of a bad part of town, like sleazy Las Vegas kind of vibe. And so him being like, let's do this as flashy as possible, just fit. It fit. And so I liked him. He's not close to my favorite, but he was better than I expected.
When you say close to favorite, do you mean character or Hashira?
Character.
Okay. Because, I mean, I guess you've met all of them technically.
Right.
But
he is not close to my favorite character of this season, but he was good.
Okay, so who is your favorite character this season then?
Okay, guys. So here's a little recap. For the entire first season, I loved Zenitsu. Listen, you can say he's annoying. You can do all this stuff. You can be like, oh, he just screams the whole time, this and that. I thought he was funny, and I thought he was such a good underdog story and had such a good arc of like, he is a goober. He's a freaking goober, and he's terrified all the time. But this season, he freaking locked in, bro. He was locked in. And he was like, so he's always kind of been like my favorite, right? This season, though, got me really attached to Inosuke. Ooh. I was really invested in him this season. And I think part of it was like, you saw him more as a person this time, and he wasn't like this mysterious boar figure that you like, that was just kind of like this brute that was like too gung-ho and didn't take crap from no one and had anger issues. But this mission, like his undercover mission, it was a really good bit where they were like, she's gorgeous. She's the most beautiful one here.
It's just a guy.
And it was him when he's like the most like brooding of all of them. But I felt like he was humanized a lot more in this season and was dug into a lot more, and like he learned how to be a team player, and you know, he grew stronger. And then when he put the boar head back on, I was like, let's freaking go. Maybe my favorite part about this show is character design. They knew how to do some freaking character design in this show. It's on point for every single person. On point. So I think this season, Inosuke was my favorite. I will say that. He was my fave. And then I still like Zenitsu. He's my boy.
I'm glad, because I feel like they both got to do stuff this season.
They both actually got missions this time around. I really liked the let's split up gang aspect of this season, and they actually had their own missions and could develop on their own without just being the Tanjiro sidekicks, which like Tanjiro, main character, He's great. I like him a lot. But he's like, of the three, he's on the bottom for me, you know? Because I feel like I have the affinity for those two guys. They're like, I really like watching their character arcs and their journeys as they're learning. And I'm like, wow, you guys have come so far. Like, good job, guys.
Good job, team.
Yeah,
I'm so proud of you.
Inosuke was my favorite this season.
That's fair.
That's what I'll get through.
That's fair. Yeah. I'm scanning through these episodes. There's not a lot.
Yeah.
In
there's not a lot.
These first three. Once they start fighting, though, it kind of picks up.
Right.
Because like Tengen jumps in.
I thought the girl demon. I was like, cut her head off. Like she sucks. She is so freaking annoying.
What, you don't like Daki?
No, she's so freaking annoying.
Really?
And I was like, oh my gosh. And then her whole belt move was stupid. I was like, kill her.
You didn't like the belts flying everywhere?
No, that was weird. But it was like, it's the kind of thing where it's like, I hated her. That means they did their job well because she's a villain. Like, she's supposed to be the worst. So, you know. And then her brother came in and I was like, what a creep. Like, he's just a creep. And was like, but then like, I thought he was kind of funny because I was like, this really is just like every Reddit user, like
he's
in there,
such a
like
gooner,
that
dude.
meme. He's a very much like a milady kind of guy. And then they went and like talked to Michael Jackson, and he was like, he had the freaking like the hat, and I was just like, all the villains in this show think they're the stuff, and I'm like, you guys are losers. It's
kind of the point. It's like. Imagine not being able to go out during the day. My favorite, one of my favorite lines this season is when it's after like Nezuko's whole thing, which I'm going to come back to that. And Tengen like cuts off her head instant, like bam, like that. And she doesn't even notice right away. It was very much like the anime ching. And then like 3 seconds later, the head falls off and she starts whining. She's like, I am an upper rank. He's like, shut up. Shut up. I'm not here for you. Enough.
He's like,
and he's
go.
Like paying no mind. Like he's turned around. He's talking to Tanjiro, and he turns and is like,
he's like, you
shut
are
up.
not worth my time.
And then goes back to what he was doing. Like she was not a threat to him at all.
No, he was like, you are not worth my time. Like, and she was like, I am upper rank. I am. And she was so whiny. And I was like, dude, like,
that was kind of her whole character.
Get her out of here. Get her out of here. But here's the thing about the show is this season, the second you thought the fight was over, they like said, you know, I had to double it. And then it like goes even crazier. And that was part of my frustration was I was like, oh my gosh, the like fake out ending happens like 5 times. And I was just like, oh my gosh. But then it kept getting better, so I couldn't really be mad.
Right.
But I also was like, okay, this is like a long fight. Like, this is a long fight. But like, it's like, oh, they got her. Okay, cool. We're going to like, you know, go do something else. We're going to wrap it up. And I was like, that was a really good final battle. And then her brother comes in.
Why is she
and
not
I was
disintegrating?
Like, oh, we are for real going to be doing this for the next 4 episodes.
What did you
like,
think? What did you think was going to happen?
I don't know because when she was decapitated the first time, I was like, okay, we're like halfway through the season. This is not the final battle. But I didn't expect the final battle to just start from there.
Right.
Like, I thought that they would have to be like, oh, there's another one. We have to go this way. But what they did was so much better. So I really, like, they really killed it on that.
Because there was another one. He was just hanging out.
Another one.
He was just chilling.
Yeah. So, you know, banger villains.
Another favorite note. Muzan got so traumatized it was in his blood. I love that. When she's like, why am I shaking? Bad. And then it's like, oh, the memories are in his blood? What?
Yeah, it's just like, dude. That last episode when I watched it last night and he did like their whole backstory, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is if I can like say this on air, this is effed up.
Right?
Like this is like Demon Slayer got adult this season. Not even in an inappropriate way, because like the whole point of the entertainment district was they were like, yeah, this is bad. This sucks. Like this is really really damaging to everyone involved. Like this is bad. And I was like, okay, like that's a more adult theme. But then by the end, even in like the gore, they got like, there was a part where like she like sliced up Nezuko, and I was like, there's no way she's dead. There's no freaking way she's dead. And she's like, oh, her body is stuck together with her congealed blood. And I was like, ugh.
And then she like snaps it all back together.
Yeah, that was nasty. I did not like that. That sent a shiver down my spine. That was gross. And so it was more adult in that way. But then like at the end, he was like, yeah, you know, I was beaten as a child. I was like, oh, that's oh, okay. So we're getting into it. And he's like, yeah, they throw rocks at me. And I think the line that got me the most was he said, it was something along the lines of, he said, I felt like every insult that was ever created was designed for me. And I was just like, oh, that's one of those like lines that cuts you deep. You're like, oh my gosh, like that's poetry. Like, so when they went into that, I just kept like recollecting the final fight, and I was like, man, this sucks. Like, I feel bad now. But like, that's the point, is they're humanizing them and that's why it's so hard for Tanjiro to do it, because he has Nezuko.
Right.
And he's like, they are no more worthy than she is. But if I don't do something, they're just going to kill me.
Right.
So it's like this super complicated character arc that I think is just phenomenal. It's phenomenal. And I was just like, it's a perfect setup. Like, it is storytelling 101, like a complete setup. I love it.
Yeah, I really like Tanjiro's line when he like covers his mouth when they're yelling at each other as just the heads. And he's like, no one is going to forgive you for what you've done. Everyone you've killed is going to revile and curse you and hate you. All you have is each other. So don't lose that
Don't end it like this.
And something I want to get your opinion on is something I think this season does really well that the series would have been very poor off with if they didn't ever make this parallel, was the parallel between those two siblings and Tanjiro and Nezuko.
Dude.
And like, this is worst case scenario over here. And I mean, literally, Tanjiro says it. This is what would have happened. Like, there is a future where we were both demons instead of just her. And like the difference there, even when you see it, like when her head gets chopped off and he pops out and he's like taking care of her and he's like, oh, are you okay? Like, let me check on you. All things that Tanjiro has done for Nezuko throughout the series, even like right before that, where he's trying to calm her down.
Yeah.
Like,
I just want to say, this is crazy. It's like, let me set you the scene. It's like 1:45 a.m. and I'm watching this episode and I'm like so locked in at this point. And then he's like, has his blade on the dude's neck, which this is, sorry, like even just saying that, I'm like, this is a very adult show. But he's like, has his blade and he's pushing down on his neck, and then they just swap places for a split second. And I was like, that's when it clicked in my brain, the parallel of the siblings. And I was like, holy crap, it's been in front of me all along and I never connected the dots. And then they switch places where like Tanjiro's the one getting sliced, but then it's like just kind of like in his head. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is brilliant. It was brilliant. It was just phenomenal storytelling. I think it was just 10 out of 10. That was phenomenal. It just made it so much easier to empathize because I'm like, yeah, screw those characters. That sucks. And then you're like, aha, but you're rooting for these characters that are doing the same thing. And I was like, oh,
do you
shoot.
feel like the backstory for Gyutaro and Daki changed how you felt about them?
Yes,
okay.
I did.
Because people give Demon Slayer a lot of flack for doing the sad backstories last.
Yeah.
And like, oh, well, why didn't you do this first?
Because if they did it first, it would have been this sob story that, you know, would have tainted the fight, I think. Because from my perspective, what I think you do by sharing the story after is you have this huge fight and it's like, screw these guys. These demons suck. Like, kill them all. Like, I want them gone. Like, I'm rooting for our heroes. But then I feel bad for hating them. Like, what you've done is put the audience in that same position that Tanjiro was in. And so that is just like an absolutely really well done way to empathize with your main character in the sense of like, I'm in the same position now. Like, I feel bad for hating them because they really were just a product of their situation, which sucks. He still had to kill them, but it sucks because now I feel like a jerk for hating them. But
right.
Yeah, I think that I thought about that. I was like, this is kind of a sob story back, like kind of like the sad backstory. But I was also like, you know, what were you supposed to do? Just be like, they're bad because they're bad?
Exactly.
Like, that's not how this show works.
I also think
so
putting the backstory last gets you to solidify that these are bad people. Right. And they are like reprehensible demons who are doing things that are evil, and you acknowledge the evilness that's there.
Yeah.
And then once they're dead and you're like, yes, we got them, then you say,
right.
Okay, here's how they ended up in that situation. Of like, it was just a chain of bad events, and that's all it was. Because some demons aren't even evil. Like the bongo drum guy from season 1, he wasn't even really evil. He was just like, I want people to listen to my music, and now I'm in like this weird frustrated state. And Muzan was like, hey, you want some blood? I can turn you into a demon and you can perfect your music. And like hitting on that vulnerability, which is even what, I don't know. Did Crunchyroll pop up the subtitles for you that translated whatever Japanese text was on screen?
Yes.
Okay. So the guy at the end was upper rank 2 who came in and was like, hey, I see your sister's about to die. You wanna become a demon? And then like taking advantage of that vulnerability.
Yeah.
And capitalizing on all of the anger and the frustration and the hatred. And like, that's how you end up with upper rank 6 is you let all of that fester. The part that got me, the part that got me was after that, when they're both standing like in that void.
Yeah.
And he's trying to walk into the darkness, and she's like standing there with the light illuminated on her. Like she still has the opportunity to turn around. And he almost starts like yelling at her to get her to stay.
He's like, go away.
Because he's like, this is not on you. This was my fault. And I do think it was really interesting that she was the younger version of herself and not the demon version, which, much like our Star Wars debate about Ghost Darth Vader, would go back to like, well, did she die when she was like, is that her? Well,
that's I
don't know.
That brings up the thing is like, he was his demon self because he did it to himself. But she, I don't think that she was ever like
aware.
It's kind of complicated. I don't think she was ever actually aware that she was a demon, because I think that she reverted back to that younger self, which makes me think that that is only your fate if you choose it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Is that crazy?
It's I mean, even in the sense
it's
that
so
like,
complicated.
She was called Daki. They didn't even use her actual name when she was a demon.
Right.
which would make you think that they're almost two separate characters.
Two separate characters, yeah.
But then when he's like, no, you need to leave. And she's like, no, we're going to stay together. And like, she will not let go of him. And eventually he's like,
right. Okay.
All right. And then they walk into the flame together. Oh my gosh.
Did they
so
walk
good
into, this is a legitimate question I had. Did they walk into the gates of hell together?
I think that's what's supposed to be implied. It's the symbolism of like the light is like she still had the opportunity to go to heaven and turn around. Which I don't know, but I'm not here to get into theology. That's a Nick with no K video, but
that's not how it works.
Symbolically, she still had the opportunity to go, but she chose to go to the gates of hell with her brother because she wanted to stay together. Because
I don't even think the intention was to be a heaven and hell conversation. I think it was very metaphorical.
Yeah, 100%.
I think it was very much like she had the opportunity to change her ways and be good again. She could have been good, but he was like, I have to face
the consequences.
My consequences. Like, these are my consequences and I have to face them. And so he had to go over there. And she was like, I'm not going to abandon you.
Right.
Like, I can't. And that got me really hard.
And
too.
This is where it ties into the Tanjiro and Nezuko parallel again.
Right.
Because all of the, like, Gyutaro has a lot of negative self-talk. And he says, like, well, if you'd been born in a better family, you could have done this. You could have gotten married. You could have had your own family. Like, if you hadn't done what I taught you, like, if someone else raised you, you could have done better. Because the whole reason she stabbed the guy was because that's what he taught her to do.
That's what he taught her,
and she just mirrored what her older brother was doing. And he's like, well, if you had just done this and just done that. And Tanjiro does a lot of that too. Of like, oh, if I was just this, if I was just that, you could have been saved. If I was just home when it happened, like, all of that. But in that, Nezuko is still like, no, this is what happened. We have to keep moving forward through that. And I mean, what really would have changed? And her whole, I don't remember what episode it was in when she was talking to him in like the dreamscape space.
Yeah.
Of like,
which was awesome, by the way. I was not mad about that at all.
Why do you keep, and what's so nice is it was the exact same dream space that they used in the movie when he went into the dream space. It's like the snowy home.
Right.
Like, it's always been that.
Right.
And I like when she talks about, why are you always apologizing? Like, you say, sorry, I can't afford this. Sorry, I can't do that. Does that make us any less? Does that, like, you're doing everything you can, and that's enough. And I just think, oh, dude, it's so
banger.
good.
That's a good,
Don't let anybody dog on Demon Slayer, bro. They're like, hey, it's not complex. It's a simple story. No, it's not. You just have to look for it.
Yeah. Also, here's my thing. And it's something I've felt for a long time. Is people will go on about, oh, this story sucks because it's too simple. Or this story isn't complicated. It's not deep enough. If Demon Slayer was everything that it is on the surface, like you want it to be, it would suck. This Demon Slayer has a thing that's called subtext, and it's called good storytelling. Good storytelling is told in subtext. It's not thrown in your face saying, this is what's happening. This is that. It doesn't have to answer every single question. Demon Slayer treats its audience like adults. They don't try to explain every single little thing. You're left with some questions, and that's okay. That's the point. It's good storytelling. Anyway, I really hate the conversation of like, it's too simple. When it's like, is it too simple, or is there subtext? Like,
or are you just minimizing the subtext because you don't like the show? Because that is something that people do a lot that really frustrates me is people will minimize Demon Slayer down to, oh, it's just flashy fights. It's just this. It's just that. It's carried by animation, which I want to come back to later. And if you minimize all of that down, yes, it is a very simple story. If you minimize the subtext and take away all of those things.
Right.
But if you look at it for the show that it actually is, presented in every single episode, it is not a simple show. Like, we just had like a 10-minute conversation about the sibling parallel, and that wasn't even the main focus of the season.
No. Like, there's a lot there. You just have to... I don't want to say the competence. That sounds rude. But you have to have the media literacy. You have to have the literacy. The media literacy to like, watch it like that and not just, pretend that it's flashy fights. Which, I'll also say... animation in this season was like, holy cow. Like, especially the last like 3 episodes, I was like, Lord have mercy. Like, it was another level. And I didn't think that from the last season it could be, or from the movie, it could be another level. Because the movie was another level. They just keep outdoing themselves in the animation. Like, it's insane. I didn't think that they could outdo themselves, and they did. I was like, wow.
It's incredible.
I will also say something that I think we don't talk about enough for animated shows and movies is editing, because we talk about animation, but here's the thing. You still have to edit an animated show the same way you would edit a normal show. You just have to be very intentional about what gets animated, because you don't want to waste your time and resources. So you're essentially piecing it together as if it's edited. And I really, really think that Demon Slayer is one of the most well-edited animated things I've ever seen. Movie show, like, ever. Like, it is just, there is actual cinematography considered in this show. Like, they are pulling it together to, like, because here's the thing about fight sequences, like, it's be so easy to get lost in these huge big fights with all these sprawling like spectacles. But I'm locked in. I know exactly what's going on, and it is, so this is very well edited.
While we're here, instead of looping back to it, I'll just pose the question to you. One of the biggest criticisms of Demon Slayer used by the people who don't like it, and even like just generally on the internet, is that Demon Slayer is carried by animation. Do you think that is true? Do you agree with that? Yes or no?
I think the word carried is intense. I think you could say that the animation contributes to the emotion, but that's literally the point of animation. So if you want to say that there's no good story and it's just flashy animation, this and that, I would argue that the animation would not be good without the story. Because if I'm watching this really just beautifully animated thing, but the story is garbage and there's just like nothing to it, and I'm just like, there's just fight. If it was actually just fights, I don't think we would credit it as high, because we would not be near as engaged. We wouldn't care. We wouldn't care if it was just fights, And so I feel like it's kind of like the two things that connect. And it's like this Venn diagram of like animation, characters, like story. And it's like, I think if you had like lower budget animation on the show, it would still be really good. It would still be really good. If it was just the story and the fights weren't near as flashy and you had to like cut the budget in half, okay, the story would still be phenomenal. That's my opinion. Like you don't need that 10 out of 10 animation to tell that story. But by having it, the story goes from a 10 to a 12. And you're just kind of like, it is conveyed in the most emotion-jerking way possible. Like, this is why people are connecting to anime a lot more than, animated stuff that we make in, like, America, is because they know how to make the show through the animated medium pull these emotions out of you. And it's just something we haven't really gotten to yet. The closest example I have is the Spider-Verse movies, and that's kind of how it made me feel. Was it like really, they conveyed so much emotion using the medium. And that's kind of how I feel about Demon Slayer, is it would not work in live action, but it would work with slower animation. It just wouldn't be a 12, it'd be a 10, Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes 100% sense. And I think, to your point, carried is a very strong word, because there are some shows that are genuinely carried by animation, right? Like, that have a mediocre story and have incredible animation that you're like, okay, well, it looks really pretty, so I'll stay.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then there are some shows that have really bad animation but really good story, so you're like, okay, I'll stick through that, right? Like an example, Here's an example of a show that has good animation but a bad story, Sword Art Online, right?
Yeah.
Like, Progressive, the movie, looks great. I think Sword Art Online is a phenomenally beautiful, like, well-edited, well-animated, great sound effects, all of these things. I like it, but playing devil's advocate to the point we discussed on that episode was, story's not great.
No.
Like, it's not great, but
no,
it still looks really good and people like it, right? And I think Demon Slayer falls somewhere in the middle of, first of all, Ufotable, this is, one, their only project that they're working on at the moment. And
has
which
their full
is,
attention,
as far as I'm aware, is incredibly rare in the anime space, because a lot of studios are working on multiple shows at once, so they kind of have to parcel out their best team to work on all these different shows. Whereas Demon Slayer, they've been able to put a lot of emphasis and time and quality and care into it. Secondly, I think Demon Slayer is not carried by animation, but it's elevated by animation.
Yes.
Because, to your point, the manga was already doing and selling incredibly well.
Right.
For it to get an anime adaptation in the first place. But even outside of that, it was on pace and almost outselling some of the bigger series like My Hero, One Piece, Jujutsu Kaisen, like all of that. And then they take this really good anime adaptation and just somehow turn it into a 12 out of 10. And through bringing all of these things together, and like, one thing I really like is, and I know you haven't like watched season 3 or 4 yet, but something they do with all of the Hashira is they style the fight around that Hashira. So like, Rengoku's fight feels very different to Tengen's fight, because Tengen is the flashy Hashira. So of course you're going to get all these fireworks and all these explosions and this big like flashy blades clashing and whatnot. And then next season, like, we'll get to Mitsuri and, what's his name? Moichiro. Like, their fights feel very different from each other because they're very different, but they feel different to what we've seen. Because it's not like they're all different. They all have these different breathing styles. Tanjiro's fight feels very different from Tengen's fight. So, like, just that little detail. And like you said, I think editing is something that goes incredibly unnoticed and underappreciated. This anime has very good editing, knows exactly how to storyboard and master its direction to pull out all of those emotions from you, but also has really good music and sound effects. Like, all of the breathing styles have very distinct, unique sound effects that I think goes underlooked in a lot of series, and they're things that you just don't think about. So no, I don't think Demon Slayer is carried by animation. I don't think that's a valid criticism to put at it, because also, first of all, anime really is just a glorified advertisement for the manga.
Right.
They want you to go pick up the manga. That's why so many seasons end off on a cliffhanger. Like, the numbers probably aren't out yet, but I cannot imagine how much the manga sales have spiked after the ending of this Demon Slayer season.
Mm-hmm.
Like the cliffhanger they left on, if I wasn't reading the manga already, I would have gone out and bought it.
Right.
Because it's an intense cliffhanger. So there's that. Like, it is supposed to be a glorified advertisement. Second of all, it's an adaptation, bro. Is it supposed to look bad? That's my go-to whenever someone's like, Demon Slayer's carried by animation. I'm like, so it's supposed to look bad? Like,
right.
just admit that you don't like Demon Slayer because it's the new hip popular thing.
Right.
I don't have any. I know Demon Slayer is not for everyone, right? I get that.
Right.
I don't like Jujutsu Kaisen. I don't think it's a very good show, but I know there's plenty of people who like it, right?
Right.
I know there are people who feel that way about Demon Slayer. Just openly admit you don't like the show and move on.
Right. Because, I don't know, people will always hate something that's popular because it's popular. And it's so hip to, like, be the first one to know something or like something. And it's just kind of like, just freaking like what you like and just enjoy it. And then let other people do the same.
But I guess that doesn't get clicks on Twitter, so.
Oh, shoot.
We have to. Demon Slayer's carried by animation. It's so mid. I saw one of the most horrendous takes, and then I'll get to like my last point, and we can move on. One of the most horrendous takes this week took a clip from the most recent episode, and they were like, the readability of this clip is so, like, we're going to look back in 10 to 15 years and be like, what were we doing with the current trend? And then all of his examples after that were clips from, like, the original Dragon Ball. And it was like, look at all the choreography here. It's just so amazing and masterful. And, like, they were really intentional. And I'm like, bro, you can see what's going on screen if you don't watch it as a 140p clip on Twitter. If you pull it up on your TV and watch it the way they want you to watch it, it looks fine. You're just watching a really low-quality version on Twitter and then making this whole essay about why it looks awful.
Yeah.
Anyway, last couple things. Go ahead.
Can I ask what do you have a favorite moment from this season?
Oh, episode 10.
I have two.
100%. The whole, like, from Tanjiro trying to cut his head off after, like, the eye catcher at the break to the end of the episode. That is my favorite part of the sheer number of times I've rewatched that. So much. I wish I was an anime reaction channel when that episode came out, because I was sitting on my couch in my apartment. I'm shocked I didn't get a noise complaint.
Yeah.
I was like, yo, he's gonna go. Oh. And then, like, Tengen comes back, and I was like, yeah. Because I hadn't read the manga. I also thought Tengen was dead. I was like, dang, that sucks. Then he comes back, and I'm like, yo.
Yeah.
It was so good.
Yeah. I have two favorite moments. One, my second place favorite moment is Inosuke sawing her head off with his serrated blades. Baller. That was baller.
You know, beast breathing is made up, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I don't remember if they went in that in the first season, but when they show the diagram of all the different breathing types, beast breathing's not on there because it's completely made up.
Right, and he's like. I also like, I wasn't even mad because he was like, moving my internal organs is not a problem for me. I'm like, I grew up in the mountains. And it was just like, that sounds so dumb, but once you meet a couple country boys that like grew up,
checks out.
Like in the that checks out. Yeah.
And like you see him dislocate his whole body to slither through that tunnel before. So it's like, you know he can do it.
Yeah. So that, but number one, I was cackling at the Nezuko fight when they show like 8 angles of her kicking this lady's head in. And it's just like, womp, 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 womp. But it's every single angle possible of her just like stomping this lady's face into the ground. And I was like, I was cackling. I think I rewinded. I was like, that's too good. Hold on.
I had to. Even though I'd seen it already, I had to. It was so funny.
It's too good. It's too good.
Because she talks big, too. She's like, I'm going to rip you to shreds. And then bang, her head is gone. And her whole body goes flying across the roof and gets torn in the power lines.
Good.
Like, oh my God.
So freaking good.
How did you feel about that Nezuko fight? That was one thing we haven't talked about yet. Was
10 out of 10.
Nezuko got to do something this season.
Yeah, no, for real.
Instead of just being in the box.
I liked it. 10 out of 10. That's all I'll say.
What I think is insane is Nezuko absolutely could be the strongest demon if she... Like, she did all that.
Yep.
No human blood.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine if she, like, went full-blown demon.
She'd be upper level.
She'd be...
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Tanjiro switched his breathing techniques this season.
I mean, it's kind of like
he's fire now.
You know,
instead of water.
He's fire now. But he's both. And I'm like,
he's both. But spoiler alert, he never uses water breathing again.
Oh, so he's fire now.
He's fire now.
Okay, cool.
I mean, maybe he does every now and then, but like, primarily speaking.
Right. I'll just say like we've watched I would say we've watched a lot of shows, different animes for this podcast, and you know, we watched Sword Art Online, Spy Family, like Oshinoko, and you know, we've like trying to think what else. Love is War.
Mashal.
You know, Mashal, all these shows. Demon Slayer is still my favorite.
All right.
2 years later, it is still the GOAT in my mind.
Now I want to like just keep going. I'm like,
right.
This is just season 3.
Right.
No, we got to space it out. We don't know when the movie's coming out. We got to, we got to pace ourselves. You know what I'm saying?
It's going to be okay. We're going to be okay.
So,
yeah. So I think,
overall, just to like put a nice little bow on everything.
Mm-hmm.
What would you rate this season out of 10? I know you gave your ranking way before, but like, just to bring everything full circle. I'm going to say
full circle. I'm going to give it like... So season 1 in my mind would have been like a 9.5 or a 10. So it was like perfect. I'm going to say this one is like an 8.5 or a 9.
Okay. I mean, still just incredibly
because of the aforementioned reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's where fair. I'm at. Is I'm like, this is still peak, but season 1 will like stay in my heart forever.
I'm interested to see if that changes with any of the upcoming seasons, because we have 3 and 4 to go to.
Yeah.
Before the movies. Which, I mean, if we have a year for the movies, we got plenty of time.
We got plenty of time.
We're not hurting for time. So, anything else you want to get out before I give you your next anime?
I think I'm good, you know?
Kay.
Guys, go watch Demon Slayer. Don't hate it because it's popular, you know? It's freaking amazing. Don't, you cannot watch an episode of Demon Slayer and tell me that the animation is bad. And, at the end of the day, it's a banger. There you go.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Well, we're doing things a little differently this time because I'm stripping away your right to choose.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to give you
one. Love the government.
But I think it's going to make a lot of sense when I tell you why.
Okay.
So the next anime adventure is actually going to be about a month from now in August.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you might think, that's a little soon. That's a little soon. I was like, yeah, it is a little soon. But then we'll take like a little bit longer gap between the next one. Now, we talked about this last time I was there, and I asked you what anime, what's your list of like anime that you really feel like you want to watch? And there was one that you said you had wanted to watch, and one that a lot of people have said they want you to watch.
Okay.
And it only feels fitting that since that episode of the anime adventure comes out on August 5th, that you watch the first season of My Hero Academia.
I'm connecting the dots.
So the next anime adventure is you watching season 1 of My Hero.
Okay, I'm in.
It's time. We're 2 years in. We're finally watching My Hero.
I'm in.
I've been watching one fight from season 1 all week, and I'm like, I'm so excited for him to get to this because he's so good.
It's your favorite.
Yeah, so if you hate it, the podcast is over. Legitimately
for
this
2 years.
For real.
And it would like we've done this for 2 years, and so like I'm shocked we'd never got here.
I know it's always because I've always put it on a poll, or I've put it in like the list of anime for you to choose from as a like vague title. So once we get past that episode, I'll let you pick the next one. Maybe by then I might be able to throw Oshinoko season 2 on there. I don't know. We'll have to wait and find out.
We'll have to see.
I also took away the right to choose because I only had 2 options.
Yeah.
And
we didn't
because I didn't want to do a revisit back to back, so I was like, oh. Yeah. And then I was down to 2. I will tell you, you picked school because I was like, oh, let's do the category thing. It was either Jujutsu Kaisen or My Hero.
Oh, praise God.
So as soon as they put out the manga like ending announcement, I was like, all right, the manga's ending. We're starting Jackson's anime adventure with My Hero. I'm not doing Jujutsu Kaisen yet. Okay. So,
yeah,
that's it. You have a month to watch 13 episodes. You better not dilly-dally.
I'll probably watch the last 6 the night before.
We should watch like the first couple while we're together next week.
That'd be fun. Loki. Okay. Well, unless you have anything else to say.
Nope.
I think it's time to wrap it up here. Hey, guys. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Nerdiest Podcast. August 5th, we'll be talking about the first season of My Hero Academia. So if you'd like to stay up to date, there you go. There's your prompt. I don't remember what our next episode is, but it might be subject to change because our calendar is constantly shifting. So I'm not going to tell you what it is.
I don't even know what we're doing. I got to look at the schedule when we're done.
Keep up. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Thank you so much for joining us. If you like what you hear, make sure you follow us on Instagram at The Nerdiest Podcast and YouTube at The Nerdiest Podcast and Twitter at Nerdiest Pod. Now, you can also go to thenerdiespodcast.com and get some special merch. If that's not enough for you, though, you can become a Spotify subscriber and listen to our monthly after show where we share movies with each other that the other hasn't seen and review them for only $3 a month. And it's the best way to support the show because we do all this ourselves. We plan everything, record everything, edit everything. Everything is us. So thank you so much for supporting the show. Thank you so much if you're already a Spotify subscriber. We really appreciate you. Thank you so much for becoming a subscriber. We really appreciate that. We love you guys.
Episode last month.
Sorry about that episode. That's we'll make it up to you. Don't worry about it. So, thank you so much for listening. We will see you next time. Until then, bye.
I was worried. Oh, my camera froze. There it goes. I knew the peace sign was one of the things.